We are back in a GTR. So if you are new to the channel, this might not make all too much sense, but for those of you who are pretty familiar with our channel, I owned an R35 Nissan GTR for 5.5 years, and 1 year ago, almost to the date, I sold my car. It was a 2014, bought it back when I was 24, had 24,000 miles on it, drove it till about 50,000 miles. June 2023, I sold the car in order to buy my all-time dream car, which is the Lamborghini Gallardo. Bought that a couple months later. So now, fast forward, it is June 2024, and we are here at 704 Exotics. Drove down in my wife's RS3, getting an alignment done on this car. A lot of you guys have asked about that after we did the lowering springs. So we're gonna get the RS3 all set up with a solid alignment. I figured while I'm here, their inventory is pretty insane, and they have a decked out R35 Nissan GTR, full bolt-ons E85, just like what my car was. It has been 1 year since I've driven a GTR, so it's gonna be really interesting to see how this car is a whole year later, even comparing it to the RS3, to the Lambo, to the Supra. Kind of see, am I missing what this car has to offer? And am I gonna buy another GTR again? Will this car come back to the channel? Let's get right into it, drive this bad boy, see what it's all about again. But the cool thing about this video I wanted to make is, when I sold the GTR, obviously we just had the S3 and the Supra, and now we're on to the RS3, the Lambo, is still the Supra. What am I getting with my current cars? Am I still getting some of what I loved about the GTR in my current cars? And is there a void now that this car has been gone for an entire year? And a lot of people have commented over the last year, do I miss the GTR? Do I miss it? So I'll answer that first. Yes and no. I don't really miss cars all too much, mainly because you can always buy another one. They're replaceable, there's a ton out there. And also, when I sold it for a specific reason, to buy the Lambo, which has been my 18-year dream since I was a little kid. So I don't regret selling, I don't miss it. However, I definitely miss the idea of what this car has to offer. It is a phenomenal car. It is a true supercar. However, it is practical, easy to own, and just incredible, honestly. It's an amazing car for not really that much money, depending on what you have. So, play with all the fun modes again. We had the transmission, suspension, and traction, and bump that into manual. Let's give it a little bit. We're warmed up nicely. The sound this car makes, that is something. Wow, that is a unique sound. It's like trumpets in the background just going off. But the one thing I do like, the RS3 kind of took this place. It's all-wheel drive, it's dual clutch, it has a unique sounding exhaust note, and it is really, really fast and a lot lighter, honestly, so where it handles a little bit more nimble. So I kind of get a lot of the GTR in the RS3, which I'm really happy about. It kind of gives me that. And then in the Lamborghini, of course, old school, raw, crazy, kind of gives me the same aspects. So the GTR definitely has been filled with the other cars, doing everything that this can do, just in separate cars. So a few more miles in the R35, getting my bearings back with it. The first thing I'm noticing, this is a big car. I am so used to my little 3,000-pound Gallardo where you sit on the floor. This feels like a monster truck, like I'm not even kidding. And even in the RS3, driving it down here is so much smaller than this. I never remembered this car being like this big feeling. So that is certainly something to get used to. I just feel so high up in this car. It's crazy how your perspective can totally change. After owning this for 5.5 years to now, daily driving the Lambo for the most part, it is such a different car. I still love the drive modes, that soft suspension and everything. But if we go back into the race mode, that was kind of the way to drive this car to really get the extra fun out of it. Quicker transmission, a little bit lenient traction control, and then the suspension is gonna be a little bit stiffer to handle the weight. I mean, this car is like 3,800 pounds, so gosh, that's a big difference than what I'm already now used to. The sounds definitely are so nice. Holy crap. So that right there, that was like quarter throttle. That is fast. This car's probably making around 700 horsepower. I mean, the Lambo's 550 naturally aspirated. The RS3 is 400 with a quick transmission. So this car probably pushing it a lot more than those cars. Definitely makes you, it makes the blood in your legs wake up for sure. All right, going on to the turns now, feeling it out. the performance. This thing still, of course, can carry its weight really nicely. Lightning quick transmission. So my car was a 2014, like I mentioned. There was a little bit more feeling in the transmission between shifts. This car is so buttery smooth. It feels similar to the RS3, however, it doesn't have that like pop in the exhaust between shifts, which you feel in the RS3. So this one definitely feels a little bit smoother to shift. So it's not as raw as I remember, particularly because, you know, the 2017 is when they really updated this car. This one's 2021. So they've updated quite a lot in this car to make it feel a little bit more refined, which I can appreciate. It does make this a little bit more livable. As far as some of the normal things, I do love how we now have all the leather like on the dashboard, much cooler looking, more up-to-date interior to where it feels premium. And for a six-figure car, this specific car costs almost as much as my Lamborghini, which is crazy to think. Now mine, I bought for 67 grand back in 2018, sold it for $75,000 in 2023. So the market definitely worked in my favor to make a good chunk of money owning that car for 5.5 years. So into second gear. Yeah, I do not have that acceleration anymore in any of my cars. Gosh, I have forgotten how incredibly fast this car can be. Wow. And it's funny because doing, you know, car reviews for a living, filming certain cars, it's always funny my perspective when I film like a Hellcat. I'll be like, they're not that fast. And then of course owners really don't like that because they think 700 horsepower in a very, very heavy rear-wheel drive car is fast. When you are used to driving this car, a full bolt-on R35, not many cars feel fast to you because your perspective is honestly warped. Because this thing is blisteringly fast. You will hit 100 in a matter of a few seconds. It is so raw in terms of acceleration. I mean, it is unlike really any other internal combustion car. Nothing rear-wheel drive aside from a McLaren 720S can really touch this car when you have this thing modified. Gosh. The RS3 is going to need the full bolt-ons to even come somewhat close to this. Wow. Yeah, the raw acceleration is something that I haven't felt like I've missed. You know, going from this car to the Lambo. The Lambo is still very fast feeling, especially given the way it sounds and the way the transmission is. And then the RS3 is so quick. I mean, you still hit, you know, 70, 80 without really blinking. This car definitely takes it up a notch to where it's kind of hard to use all the power, but nonetheless, you can still use it quite a bit. Oh my gosh, the feeling of blood going to the back of my body, like that is so crazy. All right, so let's tone it back down. The way I always drive it, normal everything, and then comfort suspension. I do like the fact that this is so well-rounded. Like with the Lamborghini, it's kind of flashy. People look at it, and a lot of people think it's like a $500,000 car, which to me is kind of crazy. In the car world, obviously us car people know that it's not a $500,000 car. It's hardly more expensive than this. However, when you're in a Nissan GTR, I like how people look at it like it's a Mustang or a Camaro. When you tell them it's a Nissan GTR, most people don't really think much of that. They think, okay, it's some sports car from Nissan, no big deal. So it is kind of nice to have a car that is a supercar with ridiculous speed, but no one really cares about it, which I like a lot. The car people, they know the GTRs, they love them, but the non-car people who you don't really want to talk to half the time when you're out in public, you know, they're not gonna bug you. With the Lambo, everybody thinks it's a, you know, $1 million car, something ridiculous. So it is relaxing to have a car like this versus having a car that people assume is way more expensive than it is. And that is definitely one of the perks of the GTR. It's kind of something you can take anywhere, you can do anything with, and no one's gonna bug you about it. Oh man. On top of that, the fact that it is practical, you can genuinely use it for anything, no big deal. In my car, you know, I bought that when I was renting an apartment, single days, just kind of doing my thing, filming videos when I wasn't working my full-time job. through that ownership, I met my wife, and when we got married, we drove that 1,500 miles in a week to go up to Michigan from North Carolina to get married. So the car was in our wedding. So we did so many things with that car, and I sold it for a good reason, and I was kind of just ready for something new, and I was at the point where I could afford buying the Lamborghini, which was obviously a big dream of mine. So I'm glad I made those decisions. It all worked out really well. But now, coming back to this car a year later, is this something that I can see buying again? Honestly, I can. My wife is a big GTR fan. That's literally how we met. You know, she's a fan of the car. She found our YouTube channel and we started talking and never stopped talking. So she's a GTR fan. The RS3 we really like because it's a lot more affordable. That was brand new for 65 grand. And with that car, you know, you're getting quite a lot for the money. The GTR, you know, I sold my 2014 for 10 grand more than that with 50,000 miles. So to get into a GTR, you're talking about a 6-figure car, at least from my perspective, because if I got another one, I would want the newer one, a 2017 or newer, and they're looking like 95 grand on the bottom end. So the RS3 has been great because it's way more affordable, brand spanking new, gives you a lot of the characteristics of a GTR. It is a little bit smaller, so it kind of does feel like it handles a little better, honestly. And it's more practical with the rear doors and a little bit larger trunk with a pass-through. It lets us be able to use that car in pretty much any circumstance, and that's why my wife really likes four-door cars. She likes the practicality, but again, it has the performance stuff we loved about the GTR. Obviously, the Lamborghini, completely different car, same year as my old one. Both were 2014s, and the good thing with that car is it's got the crazy raw characteristic of an old Lamborghini, which is just that old Italian supercar flair. It's wild to drive. It feels plenty fast. Like, I never think it needs to be faster. So I certainly have plenty of fun cars that I love owning. So with all that said, will I buy another R35 Nissan GTR? I think possibly. My wife and I have talked about it quite a lot. In the future, definitely not right now. I only have a 2-car garage, and there's no way I'm buying a GTR that's going to be sitting outside. The RS3 even too expensive to be sitting outside. I don't even like my Supra sitting out there, quite honestly. So not anytime soon, just because I don't have the space for an expensive car. And financially, I don't really have another 100 grand to blow on another car at the current moment. We have other goals we're working on, so you know, a 6-figure car isn't in the works right now. But I think at some point, again, I could totally see one of these coming back to the channel. I would definitely get as new as possible, and maybe even the 2024. I know it's a little interesting looking with the newest front end and rear end, but I've seen one in person and I actually liked it quite a lot. Still unsure if an R36 will ever come out. I highly doubt it. I don't think Nissan really has the resources to make an expensive car like this, quite honestly, anymore. So we'll see, but when the time comes, it would definitely be probably a 2020 or newer. I would particularly love the anniversary edition 2020 in Bayside Blue. That'd be kind of my dream spec R35, or a Bayside Blue 2024. So those would probably be the 2 cars I would consider, and at that time I would only buy Bayside Blue just because that is the color. That's the color I idolized as a kid, you know, seeing the R34s in that color. So at some point, I think I'll probably get back into one, but it's nice to drive one now and be perfectly content with not owning one. It was a great 5.5 years owning this car. It did so many things, more things than I could ever imagine a car to do. I mean, we truly grew our YouTube channel into a business, and the GTR was a huge reason why we are doing this as a full-time career and launching our own website, and I work with plenty of companies helping them with their marketing. So GTR did more than I could ask for it. It's the reason I'm married right now to an awesome car girl, and I couldn't say anything negative about the car. It did its job for me, and at 50,000 miles, I was ready to move on anyways. Not only because I'm not really the biggest fan of keeping cars that high mileage, honestly. I know that doesn't sound high. These can go 100,000 without issues, but I just like to have a little bit lower mileage cars personally, and like I said, I was ready for my dream car. So no complaints selling it. I don't miss that I don't have it, but I'd certainly enjoy the power that this car has. That seems to be the biggest thing I'm finding that is just mind-blowing. All right, now we gotta really tune up the RS3 to make it like this. But man, this is a car you can smile when you drive it. It is definitely a blast. All right, that is it now for driving in the R35 1 year later. Crazy, it's been a whole year since I sold my car. But ending thoughts, do you guys want to see another R35 on the channel? We are getting to the point where we don't really need to be flipping cars as quickly as we have been to grow our business. The Lamborghini is staying for a long time. That is my baby. The RS3, my wife loves it, and that's our practical car. Not going anywhere anytime soon either. The Supra is the YouTube car that will flip to the next YouTube car. Maybe the car after that could be another GTR. Comment below, what do you guys think? It is fun to be able to kind of flip cars every year or so for the content purposes to help grow our business. And as we make other changes, you know, we're able to kind of keep cars more long term. So when we are back to every car can be more long term, maybe that's when this car can come back. But comment below, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. When do you guys think a GTR should come back, if it should come back? Should I just stick with trying other platforms, the BMW M cars, maybe get into other things as well? But comment below. That is then it for today's video. Fun time. This thing is so fast. That is definitely something I'll take away from remembering the R35 days. Big shout out to 704 Exotics knocking out the RS3 today and then lending me this toy for the day as well. Check out their website linked below and comment below what do you guys think should be upcoming YouTube cars for the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.